he positioned himself for much of that game tonight.
Yeah, he did. He kept coming into central areas. Yeah. Well, we've seen it before. We've seen that right-hand side of Liverpool changes sometimes. You know, Trent comes in, Trent goes high up. We've seen Jordan Henderson playing in the sort of sitting midfield area, but then a lot of the time he covers for the right-back area. So they tend to do any of their creative stuff around that right-hand side, Liverpool. And Trent today was coming quite central. I mean, he's sort of a sitting midfield player for the first 5 minutes. And we were looking at thinking, right, what's happening here? Eventually he started coming back out onto the right, but he did keep drifting in. So it's something he's done a bit more this season, started drifting into more central areas, and he's capable of doing both.
Interesting, Les. He said he's been waiting all this season to strike a goal like that. He made it worth the wait in the end. It was a special goal, was it not?
He certainly did. And, you know, you talk about him being over this side. I know he's over the other side of the pitch to take the free kick, but it comes back to him here, and I mean, that is just a hit. You know, when you see it from behind the goal, you know, the goalkeeper does well to get a fingertip on it, but like the power and the pace of it is absolutely sensational.
His other fullback does really well. Andy Robertson makes a great run. It actually takes, you know, a Newcastle player with him. The best bit about the whole thing is how Mike Dean got out the way, though. He's expecting the ball on the back of the head, and it whistles past his shoulder and whistles into the goal of the Cop end. It's a stunning strike, as let's say.
He has got this faultless technique to hit the ball so cleanly, hasn't he?
He's got technique to hit virtually every shot in the book. I mean, he can hit a fade, a curl, a dip, you know, like he can cross a ball like Beckham, he can strike a ball like a Gerrard or a Scholes. He's got virtually every club in his bag. I mean, he's got a wand of a right foot. It's amazing.
And did 3-1 in the end make it more of a reflective scoreline for you?
It was probably a reflective scoreline, but I do feel for Eddie Howe because, again, he got beat 4-0 at Leicester the other day, and there was positives to take out of it. It was a harsh scoreline. Again today, if you just read it and think 3-1, it looks quite comfortable. But Liverpool were under the cosh for a little bit in terms of only one goal ahead until the 87th minute. So it probably, I wouldn't say it flatters Liverpool, but it is a little bit harsh on Eddie Howe, and I do think there's little bits there that he can take encouragement from.
Yeah, I just wonder, with Chelsea dropping points at Stamford Bridge today, Les, how big a win that could prove to be in the title race.
Yeah, that would be a massive win. And like we said at the start of the show, it's now just about, you know, getting those points across the line. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's 7-0, 5-0, 4-0, 3-1, 1-0. It's just getting the points across the line at this moment in time. Because they'll have their periods, you know, Liverpool will have their periods where we'll see weekends where they score 6 goals. We'll see weekends where they score 4 or 5 goals, and then we'll see weekends where they score 1. And those are the really important ones when you score 1-0.
Are we getting the glimmer of a 2-horse race there today at one point?
Possibly. I mean, I think if there's one team that's going to crack, I mean, it's obvious now because they've gone 4 points behind in the title race. If there's one team that's going to crack, I think it's Chelsea. I mean, Liverpool and Manchester City have gone the distance for years now. There are no questions about them. They are seriously talented teams. Of course, Chelsea are very good, but they're the one team that I'd have question marks on. I mean, Paul Scholes sat here about 2 months ago and said Chelsea won't win the league on air. And I was thinking, wow, how can you be so sure? I'm actually starting to believe him. I think it's a 3-horse race still. But the thing is, they're 4 points behind. They've got to play Liverpool soon. Yeah. They can't afford another defeat and to go 7 points. To go 7 points behind a Man City or a Liverpool then starts making it very, very difficult. At the minute, they're hanging on in there, but they can't go any further behind.
OK, well, let's reflect, I suppose, in more depth on tonight's win. It started, of course, surprisingly somewhat, with Newcastle taking the lead. Les, just after 7 minutes, but after a bit of sloppy play from a Liverpool perspective.
It wasn't, you know, at this point it was like, you know, attack versus defence, and I think this is what Newcastle were waiting for, this break, and they play it superbly. Ball out to Sir Maximin. He cuts inside, plays it to Fraser, who then cuts it back. Bad clearance from Thiago, and then this is pure class from Shelby. Just comes inside. Goalkeeper Alisson's unsighted. And he puts the ball into the back of it. Here we see Fraser pulling it back, and Thiago's clearance is poor, unsighted. Is it Oxlade-Chamberlain just in front of him? He's unsighted by Oxlade-Chamberlain, and this is a great finish from Shelby. Just keeps calm.
Yeah, he gets nowhere near it, does he? He's still going left by the time the ball goes over Oxlade-Chamberlain's shoulder. Look at this, he's still going left. I mean, he's absolutely nowhere near it. He just can't see it, basically. And fair play to Newcastle. As John Joe Shelby was striking the ball there, they had 5 players in front of him.
Yeah.
So they, when they broke forward, they broke with numbers.
It was a lead that only lasted 14 minutes. Liverpool equalised, but this will be looked back as being quite controversial, won't it?
Yeah, and I think Newcastle have got a point, to be fair. I mean, normally, if there's a head injury, the referee stops the game immediately, and that's what obviously all the Newcastle players are saying. Mike Dean does see it. He sees it, he looks at it, he assesses it. Look, you can see him have another look there, and then he turns away, and now he turns back and has another look before he looks at the ball, and he's constantly looking at that situation and probably deciding, because it's his prerogative. There's no rule to say it has to be stopped. He's got to, it's his discretion, basically.
9 times out of 10, though.
Yeah, it's
so someone is holding their head on the ground, the referee immediately stops the play. He looks at it and he looks at it for a long time and decides that he's not going to stop the play. Whether he believes he hasn't been struck in the head, I don't know. Whether he feels he's seen clearly enough that the player hasn't been struck in the head and he's feigning injury, but he was on there for a long time with his hands on his head.
Well, that reaction from the Newcastle boss is pretty telling, and we can hear from him now on that incident. Here is Eddie Howe.
Eddie, that was a valiant attempt. He stayed in the game. I mean, defeat must hurt, but there's a lot to be pleased with as well.
Yeah, I was really pleased with the lads' effort and commitment to the game today. I think I'm really disappointed by the first goal, Liverpool's first goal. Need to see it again, but it was clear to me that I think it was Isaac went down holding his head immediately.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the game should have been stopped.
2 players down.
Yeah, 2 players down in the middle of our 6-yard box, and I think it's had a huge bearing on the game because we had the lead. That was obviously our game plan was going to be one. We're going to have long spells without the ball. We knew we were going to need to be really diligent in our defending, and scoring the goal almost suited the way that we had set up to play. But as soon as you concede and then the crowd are in the game and it feels unjust, I think it was doubly hard on our players.
Did that happen so quickly that there wasn't time to react, or was the referee unsure it was a head injury, just a collision?
I think he said to me that he felt Isaac had held his back. For me, Isaac immediately held his head. He was dazed for 4 or 5 minutes after the game. I think it's a dangerous moment where we have to think of the player's safety. But not only that, we're severely in a really difficult position with 2 players down in our box, and I don't think you want to see games decided when you have players out of the game.
It was a big call not to start with Callum Wilson, but the early goal, the game plan clearly was working then.
Yeah, it was a case of just trying to look after Callum and protect him. We know how important he is for us. We've got a very busy schedule of games, a lot of tight fixtures crammed in, and it was a case of obviously understanding his history and knowing him that we felt this was a wise game just for him to miss out. But Alan did really well on his own up front and caused them problems, as we thought he would do, with his dribbling ability and his pace. We had a really good chance, I think, to make it 2-0. I think, if I'm right, the scoreline was 1-0 to us at that moment. He went long spells without the ball, but did a diligent job, as did the team, and I was really pleased with the players today.
And you were still in the game in the second half until the Trent strike.
Yeah, and there's not a lot you can do about that. But Liverpool were going to have potential for long shots, but you've got one of the best strikers of a ball in world football, and he hit it brilliantly. There's nothing we could do at that moment. Disappointing because second half I felt our shape was better. I thought we were a little bit more aggressive, got further up the pitch, but we just didn't have the quality needed to break Liverpool down.
Manchester City next on the schedule, with a couple of concerns. Jamal Lewis and Sir Maximin injured. Look like they're injured.
Yeah, I don't know what the situation is with Alain. I need to speak with him. I wasn't sure whether it was a knock or a tightness in the muscle. With Jamal, it looks like a hamstring strain, so that looks like he'll be out.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you.
The last thing he needs is more injuries, and Jamal Lewis, it looks like, got a hamstring one himself. Interesting information he's given us there. Mike Dean told him that he felt Isaac Hayden was holding his back when he went down.
Yeah, which is, we immediately saw, and obviously we got the preview of watching it on the TV here, but it looked like it went straight to his head. There was 2 players on the floor. One gets up straight away, and the other one's just there for the whole time holding his head. So I'm not sure what part of his back he thought he was holding, but certainly his hands in the wrong place.
Maybe he meant the back of his head.
Yeah, quite possibly. You've got sympathy with Eddie Howe there.
Yeah, as I say, we both thought that 9 times out of 10 that gets stopped.
Yeah.
So you would definitely have to feel sorry for Newcastle fans, Newcastle players, and Eddie Howe in particular.